Hello, friends and family. It is MG, the Reimagine Strategist, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Reimagine You Lab podcast. And as you know, we introduced this new segment that is coming forward with our Dr. Joyce Moore, who is our nutrition and wellness expert. Dr. Joyce, I want to thank you for being here with us today. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me on your show, Mrs. Michelle. I am blessed and highly favored.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And that, my dear, we can tell. We can tell. We can see it on you, Dr. Joyce. So thank you for joining us. And guys, as you know, this show every third Friday, we are going to be coming on with Dr. Joyce, where she is going to be sharing with us nutrition and wellness facts and information, updates, things that can help us keep this temple that we have in good shape. And so if you tuned in last month for the first installment, then you know that there was some good information that she shared, and she's going to continue on. And this really is set up. This is time that we are setting aside because we know how important people's health are and making change. You know, the Reimagine You Lab podcast is all about change, and changing in our health is really the greatest wealth asset that we can have. So if we can make a change in our bodies, in the way that we protect these bodies and such, then we will have changed our lives ultimately for the good. So I don't want to steal any of the thunder because Dr. Joyce has all of the background and pedigree and everything about nutrition and wellness. Dr. Joyce, I know that we got some questions also the last time that we were on. So y'all know you got some questions that you'll be able to answer. We're going to just answer them as you kind of go through, because some of them kind of dive into some of what we'll be talking about today. So you just, at any point in time, you tell me, Michelle, what was that question number one? And I'll read the question so that our audience can hear what the question was. And then you can go into answering. That sound fair?
Thank you. That's great.
All right. All right, everyone. Well, let's just jump in. Dr. Joyce, let me do this first. I want to bring up your slides and information because I think that's a critical piece of what it is that we're doing. And so I want people to see that. So let's go to bringing up that info. So let's do that first. Oh, goodness. This is going to be the part, Kyra. This is all a part of the piece that you are going to have to edit out for us.
Mrs. Michelle, food is a topic of huge importance to the general population in the U.S. because of obesity epidemic. There is an obesity epidemic that involves 2/3 of the American population, including a third of children. A third of children. So there's a great number of people who believe that obesity and most of the other diseases that we are now coming into contact with is due to something unnatural in foods.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important for people to eat healthy. And if you look at that word healthy, you will see two words: heal thy. So eating the foods that you eat will heal you. And at the same time, they will bring about health, good health, and you will be able to enjoy health.
Yeah, that is so critical. That is so critical. So as folks know that we are doing this segment with you, and you are Dr. Joyce G. Moore, MD. Dr. Joyce, you want to share some information here about kind of give a disclaimer and then share about your book.
Okay, so number one, the information is educational and inspirational, and it's not to diagnose or to treat. And there is a book that I was inspired to write from participating on another podcast. And the name of this book is called Purple Mind Nutrition and Wellness. And it has everything in it from A to Z on nutrition and wellness. And it is available for purchase at www.purplemindbook. It should be purplemindbook.com and amazon.com. So you can go to amazon.com and purchase this book, Purple Mind Nutrition and Wellness.
Yes. And so all the things that you guys will hear as Dr. Joyce is kind of talking and sharing with us today, you'll be able to find answers inside of that Purple Mind Nutrition and Wellness book. So definitely go and check it out. So want to jump in, Dr. Joyce?
Yes. So nutrition and wellness, when we talk about nutrition and wellness, and I'm going to do a slight recap from our prior podcast that we talked about. And again, it's talking about seeded herbs and vegetables and fruits, which are imperative for nutrition and wellness. And the most important thing to remember is that your herbs, your vegetables, and your fruits should contain seeds, because it's within the seeds that we are getting the nutrition that our bodies need to have health, to prevent diseases, and to cure illnesses. So in my talking about nutrition and wellness, I always use the two witnesses. I use the Word of God, and this is what the Word of God says about nutrition and wellness. In Genesis 1:29, and this is in the New King James Version, God said, "See." And when he said "see," he's telling us to pay attention. "I have given you every herb, vegetable that yields seed, which is the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." And so when he says on the face of the earth, he is saying that these foods should come from the soil of the earth, and they should contain seeds, and that they shall, this is not that they might be for food or they may be for food, they must be for our food, because they contain the nutrients and the seed, and within the seeds we're getting the nutrients that we need for our bodies to grow and develop and to prevent disease and to cure illness.
Yeah. Next. No, I like that, Dr. Joyce, because it's both. You know, it's kind of it's that tie-in. Like you said, it's the Word of God that we're using, and then it's practical. Like it's take it and actually make this applicable to you. All right. I love this. We're gonna keep going.
Yes, ma'am. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's give a definition for nutrition. So nutrition is the sum total of nutrients. And from our prior discussion, we talked and we list the nutrients. What are the nutrients? Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fibers, and plant-based cholesterol and fats. And these are acquired from eating a variety of foods, not just one type of food, but a variety of foods. So God has placed these nutrients into over 200 kinds of vegetables and fruits, plant-based foods, which contain seeds. And that's the most important thing, is that these vegetables, herbs, and fruits contain seeds. And again, we line this up with Genesis 1:29, which is the Word of God. Mm-hmm. Next, please. Okay, so consuming herbs and vegetables, fruits, and also whole grains with seeds contain the necessary nutrients required for good nutrition and wellness. And so what God has done is he made us in his image. So he knew that we would need food. As a human body, the body needs food. And so he has placed his desired genetic traits that will allow our bodies to grow and develop, to prevent from having diseases and to cure illnesses by the nutrients that he has placed in plant-based foods containing seeds. And so just a few of these herbs and vegetables and fruits, whole grains, legumes, and that's actually the beans and the lentils and the peas, the nuts, cheese and spices. All of these foods God has put his genetic trait into so that they will provide the nutrients that the body needs.
Mm-hmm.
Next, please.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we'll just go through the nutrients that are found in plant-based foods containing seeds. And that's the very important thing, that they must contain seeds. So when we are eating these, when we are consuming these plant-based foods, we are receiving the nutrients that God has placed inside of them. And these are vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, fiber, carbohydrates, and healthy fats. And we're talking about plant-based fats and cholesterol. Yes, plants contain fats and cholesterol. And so in the last discussion, we had stopped at proteins. And so today, what I plan to do is to place the emphasis on proteins, the next nutrient, which I will be talking about proteins. But just to do a quick recap, the vitamins are vitamins A, C, and E. The minerals, zinc, selenium, and copper. And the amino acids, we named 2 essential amino acids. And these are lysine and methionine. Now, the 2 essential amino acids that I just mentioned, they're just 2 of the total of 9 essential amino acids. But the vitamins, the minerals, and the amino acids that I just mentioned, the body cannot make these. So you have to consume food, plant-based food, to get these into your body so that you will have the necessary nutrients. And we are calling these nutrients antioxidants. And so anti means against, oxidant means oxidation. And so, for instance, if you were to cut an apple and just leave it sitting out on your countertop, you would notice that cut apple turns brown. Well, that's because the cells of the apple has come in contact to oxygen. And so that has caused the apple to undergo stress. And so the same thing happens with our cells. And so when we have what's called, and we are calling the antioxidants the good guys, and that's because they are sharing electrons with what we call free radicals. And free radicals are what attacks the cells and causes the cells to lose electrons. So antioxidant carries your vegetables, your herbs, and your fruits containing seeds. They carry these antioxidants, which contains electrons, to share with the free radicals, the bad guys, so that you won't have damage to your cells. And it's so important. We're going to find out as I talk about proteins that to protect your cells from having damage to your DNA. And that's what antioxidants, that's what your vitamin A, your vitamin C, your vitamin E, and your minerals that I just mentioned, they prevent damage to the DNA, which is in the very center of the cell, which is the DNA in the center of the cell. The center of the cell is called the nucleus. And in that nucleus, that's your headquarters. That's where all of your genetic material is made. So if there's damage done to the DNA, then you can get cancer, heart disease, dementia, diabetes, stroke, all of the dis-ease. That's what disease means, dis-ease to the body. So it's very important for us to eat vegetables and fruits and herbs containing seeds because they contain the antioxidants. So that covers vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
No, I think, you know what, this is good, Dr. Joyce. I just want to interject here because you gave a lot of info right there. And I think that it's important. The key thing I took away right there was, hey, if you can get down, making sure that you are eating these plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables with seeds enables
Yes,
you to help to build up that DNA, protect
yes,
it, so that
protect.
you can, to really be able to protect those cells from an internal perspective to be able to, then that's what we see the beautifulness on the outside of our bodies too, like, so
Yes,
it clears
yes.
up some of that disease that you've talked about, but antioxidants and all that. Okay, so Dr. Joyce, let what, you tell me where to go next. Are you ready for the next slide?
And I just want to add to what you just said, which is very good, because when we take care of the DNA, like you said, that makes the genetic material, and these vitamins and minerals and amino acids, which are called antioxidants. So when you see a package and it has antioxidants on it, that's a food that you want to consider buying, antioxidant. And so now you can refer back to the last show and look at the last podcast, Mrs. Michelle's last podcast, and you can also order the book because I go more into details on antioxidants and free radicals. And so again, when you see antioxidants on food packages, then you know that's going to be good because it's going to protect your DNA and it will protect you from getting any type of disease, particularly cancer.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, so Miss Michelle, we had a question, and we probably need to answer that question before I jump into proteins.
Okay.
And this was the very first question from Bridget.
Okay, so let me pull that. Let's see here, Bridget, and we want to thank you for sharing, for asking your question. And yeah, let me read it. So it says, Michelle, Dr. Joyce, I noticed lots of foods no longer have seeds, watermelons, and what else should I be watching out for at the grocery store?
Thank you so very much, Brittany. That is a great question. Now, most watermelons, oranges, grapes, tomatoes, cucumbers, papayas, and summer squash do not contain seeds. However, if you visit your local farmer's market or an organic or natural grocery store such as Sprouts, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, depending on where you live, food pantry, a grocery store that sells organic foods, then you might be able to, and most of the times you will be able to find your seeded fruits and vegetables and herbs at these stores. And so later on, I will also be talking about how can you, just from looking at the sticker on foods, determine whether or not the food has seeds. But the litmus test, the real test, is when you cut that fruit open or that vegetable open, and if you see no seeds, and even if they say it's organic, it means that it's grown in the soil and does not have a pesticide, but it still may have been genetically modified where they have taken the seed out. So the real test is when you cut the the fruit or vegetable, whether or not you see seeds. And you want the fruit that contains the seeds because the seeds let you know that there are nutrients in that food, plant-based food.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I think we also have another question, Miss Michelle.
Yeah, there was one from an April Crawford.
And let's see. Let's see. Yeah, that's question number 2. Let's also talk about question number 2.
Okay. So yeah, here's the question, Dr. Joy. She said, can you talk more about the diseases that eating foods with seeds can help? I never heard that before, and I'm really interested to know what that means. So what kind of, eating foods with those seeds in them, what kind of diseases, what will that help is her question.
Okay, April, great question. Thank you so much for asking that question. So, seeded vegetables and fruits, and we just named some, okay? The watermelons, the oranges with seeds, watermelons with seeds, oranges with seeds, tomatoes with seeds, cucumbers with seeds, broccoli, kiwi fruits. All of these plant-based foods with seeds contains the nutrients that help to prevent heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke, dementia, inflammatory bowel disease, almost every disease, because the seeds, the nutrients in the seed is actually protecting your DNA, your genetic material.
Yeah, that's good. You know
And
what?
there are over 200 varieties of plant-based foods containing seeds, delicious foods containing seeds. So you want to make sure you balance your diet. You get your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your fiber, which is very important for colon health, and your healthy fats, which also is important to keep your cholesterol normal. So you want to balance out your diets with these foods, but they can prevent almost every disease that the people here in this country are dealing with. And the number one is heart disease, and then cancer, and then stroke, and then diabetes, and dementia, and autism, and Alzheimer's. All of those diseases can be prevented or cured by eating plant-based foods containing seeds, because the seeds is what God placed into the foods, which contains the nutrients. Okay, so today we're going to pick up with nutrient proteins. And proteins are composed of amino acids. And you remember we just talked about amino acids as being an antioxidant, as protecting the DNA of the cell. And actually, the amino acids are the building blocks for proteins. And amino acids not only are the building blocks for proteins, but the amino acids are located, the DNA, which is located in the nucleus of the cell, the center of the cell. And I'm going to call that the headquarters of the cell. That makes our amino acids. And the amino acids are the building blocks of the proteins. And so when your DNA is normal, then you will be making normal amino acids and normal proteins. So everything comes, as far as making proteins, that information is going to come out the very nucleus of your cell, the core of the cell, the center of the cell, the headquarters of the cell. And in the nucleus of the cell, you also have, the DNA has two cousins there. And that would be the RNA, the ribonucleic acid. So the DNA is the chemical term for DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. And then you have ribonucleic acid, and that's your RNA. So the first cousin, which is the transcript RNA, codes one of the strands of the DNA because the DNA has two strands. They're coiled together like a staircase. And what the first cousin, which is called transcript RNA, does, that takes the code from one of the strands of the DNA. It passes that message to the second cousin, which is the messenger RNA. Now, what the messenger RNA does, it takes the code to the cytoplasm of the cell. And in the cytoplasm of the cell, we have these organelles called ribosomes. And that's where the amino acids that's read, that's brought in by the messenger RNA, which tells the ribosomes which proteins to make. Mm-hmm. Now, this is very important because remember, the messenger RNA is taking orders from the DNA, from the headquarters. And that's the way God has set it up. Not for a messenger RNA to come in from the outside to tell the cells what amino acids, what proteins to make. That's not the correct way. So now in the cytoplasm, which is surrounding, and I wish I had a diagram, but yeah. if you get my book on Purple Mind, Peace and Rest, and Purple Shield of Protections, I do have a diagram where you will see a cell, a normal cell. And so everything that we're talking about when I'm talking about nutrients, we're actually dealing at a cellular level. Mm-hmm. And that's almost the lowest level. It's not the lowest because the lowest is the subatomic. And that's where we're talking about antioxidants sharing electrons with other atoms so that the cell won't get destroyed. But here we're dealing at a cellular level. So you are actually so much bigger because you have trillions of cells that makes up a manufacture in your body, and each cell has a genetic material, which is in the DNA, which is in the nucleus of the cell, which is going to tell the cell what proteins it needs to make. And that the messenger RNA actually tells that little organ called the ribosome. And our body is like a manufacturer, and everything works together. You know, with a body with many parts, but we're all working together as one. So your body with trillions of cells, each has genetic material, and that genetic material is actually in the DNA, which is actually in the core of the cell, which sends the information for the body to make proteins based on the information coming from the genetic material that God has placed into our bodies.
So, Dr. Joyce, with that just makes me ask the question, because I think, and you said it, this is down on the cellular level. Like, this is really peeling back and saying, hey, to really help your health and body, let's go down to the lowest common denominator, the lowest level that we can go down to the cellular level. This is where, when you see proteins and your fruits and vegetables and all the things that are working in the body, you need these to help at that cellular level. So, because if the cells are built up, then you have a greater opportunity keeping your health for as long as you can keep it.
Yes.
And so I think that's so important for people to really kind of drill down to. I know you're saying a lot of what feels like scientific things, but the core of the matter is, hey, you can take care of yourself with the way that you eat, and mindfully and purposefully, intentionally, putting the things in that are really going to help reconstruct what are on a cellular level, what's going on in the body, to really be able to help us live well and have that nutrition and wellness overall. So no, this is
Exactly.
good stuff.
Exactly. And what you just said is absolutely correct. We're looking at a cellular level, and we know that cells make up tissues, and
Mhm.
tissues make organs. So if you're not getting it right at the cellular level, if you're not eating fruits and vegetables that contains these nutrients to keep those cells, like that little manufacturer, which where we have trillions of manufacturers in our bodies, keeping that normal, then the tissue is not going to be normal. It's like a foundation, the cells,
Mhm.
and we're building from cells to tissues and then organs and then organ systems, and everything works together. And so the amino acids, which are the building blocks of the proteins, they make the proteins. And it's the very center of that cell that's telling the amino acids, that's telling you the amino acids what proteins to make. And so the proteins are crucial for nourishment, renewal, and continuance of life because they are working with making hormones, our immune response, as well as renewal of cells and regeneration of cells. All that's the work of proteins, as
Yeah,
well as the other molecular essentials for life. So we
yeah.
can go to
No,
the
that's
next
good.
slide.
No, that's good.
Okay, so now, so we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so, thank you, Lord. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has given us these seeded herbs and vegetables and fruits so that our bodies at a cellular level can prevent diseases and also cure illnesses. And so, we are much, much bigger
Mhm.
than we look. We are much, much bigger than we think. And so we have to always remember that God has made us. And He made us differently from any other animal because inside that nucleus, inside that core of the cell, where we just talked about where our genetic material is, and from that genetic material, proteins, amino acids are made that make proteins for the body, that's actually keeping this body, this hologram of a body together.
Mhm.
God has given us chromosomes. He is no other animal in the world has chromosomes, and chromosomes is that material that comes 23 from each parent, and it's
Mhm.
also spooled into coils and tightly packed into the nucleus of each one of our cells.
Mhm.
Next.
Mhm.
And so we have 37.2 trillion cells. And remember, each cell has a nucleus. Each cell has a cytoplasm with the ribosomes that are making these proteins as dictated by the DNA, by the core of the cell. And so, with those 37.2 trillion cells in our bodies, if we were to line those up end to end, we would, human beings have a DNA superhighway
Wow.
extending 42 billion miles long. Not all humans.
Wow.
In my body, in your body, in each body, we have a superhighway DNA, which extends 42 billion miles long. And we have 37.2 trillion cells. So we are marvelously and wonderfully. God has made us marvelously and wonderfully.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
so this
he
is like the distance, this 42 billion miles, our DNA superhighway. It is the distance from the Earth to Pluto 10 times. That's how
Wow.
big we are, bigger
Wow.
than we look. Bigger,
Yeah.
much bigger.
Much, much bigger, much bigger. Wow. Wow. That's oh wow, Dr. Joyce. That's amazing.
When you
Amazing.
think about it, I mean, we fearfully, when that 139:14 talks about that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, we don't realize it. We don't
Yeah.
realize it.
Yes.
We have a super highway DNA that takes us from the earth, would take us from the earth to Pluto 10 times.
Amazing.
So again, these proteins, they support our structural, there's our structural support. And the structural support, we have an osteocalcin, which is a protein, and that makes healthy bone tissue, osteocalcin.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires vitamin K. So here again, we have the vitamins and everything working together, minerals, vitamins working together. And that's why it's important for us to eat the vegetables, the herbs, and the fruits containing seeds, because they contain these nutrients, these vitamins, these minerals that allow our body to make this protein, which is called this healthy bone tissue protein called osteocalcin. And then we also have a blood clotting protein, and that's called prothrombin. Prothrombin also requires the corporation of vitamin K, and it is involved in blood clotting. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we know without proper blood clotting, the body would bleed to death. Next. Here we see proteins again. We have hemoglobin, which is a protein, and it's made in the red blood cells to transport oxygen from the lungs all over the body. And of course, the brain takes most of that oxygenated blood. And if the blood to the brain is stopped within seconds, you have what's called a stroke. And so that's very important. And then we have minerals. Remember, vitamins and minerals come from seeded vegetables, herbs, and fruits. So we have this mineral iron, and it's used to make the protein hemoglobin, which is the protein. Heme means iron, and globin is the protein part of that. And so that's what's carrying, transporting the red blood cells to oxygenate the tissues throughout the body. And then we have another protein called myoglobin, which is used to carry oxygen to the muscles. Myo means muscle, that little prefix myo. And globin is the protein. Next.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't stop there. Protein does even more. The nutrient protein does more. It's an immunoglobulin. And we've heard about immunoglobulins because we've heard a lot about the immunity, the immune system. But that's just one of our health defense systems. The science of, it's actually a new science of nutrition has found out that there are other immune systems. But this immunity system that we've heard a lot of, immunoglobulins are blood proteins. And what they do is they distinguish within the body our own proteins from a foreign protein. And when a foreign protein is identified, the hemoglobin, immunoglobulin, which is also called antibodies, can destroy it. So that's how it protects out. So when we take in a protein in the immune system, the immunoglobulins, which are these blood proteins, say, oh, this is a foreign protein. It will destroy that protein, foreign protein that's foreign to our bodies. So the body has approximately 100 million proteins. Here we're looking at proteins again, and we have something that's called lipoproteins, and they influence the transportation and metabolism. of fats. And so how is this important? So again, we see how everything in the body works together. So the lipoprotein, which is a high density lipoprotein, and you have a low density lipoprotein. So the high density lipoprotein will absorb the low density lipoprotein, which is the bad cholesterol, and it will take it, transport it from the bloodstream to the liver. And then the liver will detox it and flush it out of the body. And so a good example of a good plant-based fat or cholesterol that does this is your extra virgin olive oil. But you should not cook with it because it will degrade. It will become degraded and it will no longer be the healthy extra virgin olive oil. So don't fry or use that in high heat. You're using your extra virgin olive oil, which is abbreviated EVOO, as a finishing oil, almost like a dressing. So after you cook your food, then put maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of that extra virgin olive oil on it. And it just really helps to keep your cholesterol in check, especially your bad cholesterol. And it helps with cholesterol, the high density lipoproteins. Next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now here are some foods. And these are foods that are high in proteins. And again, we're looking at your herbs, vegetables, fruits containing seeds. They must contain the seeds. And we're going to talk later on why certain things do not contain seeds, and that's technology. But right now, just remember seeded plant-based foods that are high in proteins. Those would be your sweet green peas, your beans, nuts, lentils, whole grains, and vegetable yielding seeds. A vegetable that's pretty high in protein, and we know that beans and nuts are higher in protein than vegetables. But a vegetable that has proteins would be kale. That's pretty high on the list with proteins. Next. So again, we're showing the green peas is the top of the line as far as vegetables, and you'll see non-GMO vegetables. That means that it's been genetically modified. The seed has been taken out because it was genetically modified. So that's why, again, we want herbs, vegetables, and fruits that contain seeds. So green peas would be high in proteins. It has the highest amount of proteins as far as a plant-based food. The one thing that I would suggest is because protein makes up basically 97% of our protoplasmic hologram, three-dimensional body, because we see it plays such an important part in almost everything from our structure to our blood to our transporting insulin and transporting oxygenated blood is so important, and we don't realize that. And we need to probably take in a plant-based, find a good plant-based organic protein drink mix. And this protein drink mix should be pea powered, because pea has the largest amount of protein. But when you're looking at a plant-based protein drink mix that's organic, non-GMO, that means that this plant has, all of the plants have seeds and they're grown in soil. Also check the nutrition facts label, and you will see that it will mention typical amino acids. And remember that amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So when you look at the ingredients on your protein mixed, plant-based protein mix that you're going to make your drinks with, you can make your smoothies or just your regular drinks. You want to make sure you have at least 18 amino acids, that they list at least 18 amino acids. Now, there are a total of, some people say 20 amino acids that all of the proteins are made from, the 100 million different proteins that are made. There are at least 20, and some people say 21 or 22. But if you have at least 18, then you're going to get your essential amino acids as well as non-essential amino acids. So that's one thing that I wanted to mention. Miss Michelle, there was another question.
Yes. Let's see if we can get. Yeah. Yeah, there was one question that had come from that had come over, and it said, Dr. Joyce, can you help me get my dad together? He needs nutrition, but it's hard to get him to listen to me. I listened to the show and he asked about seeded foods. He has diabetes and was concerned about sugar. What can we do to help him keep his numbers low?
Wow. That's a great question. Again, I just mentioned, when you're buying any type of protein-based mix, any type of supplement, any food now, it has been required by the Federal Drug Administration, that's FDA, to place nutrition facts, labels, and ingredient listed that container, that food container. So with your father being a diabetic, the first thing that he wants to look for on the nutrition facts label is total sugar. They must list the total sugar, or it might say sugar. Now, for the total sugar, he would know how much sugar he can have in his diet. And if he doesn't want any total sugar, and total sugar means that this is the sugar that's actually coming from this seeded fruit or seeded vegetable. That's natural sugar. But the main thing that he wants to stay away from at all times is included sugar. So when he is reading the nutrition facts label, look also for included sugar. Stay away from, if it says 1 gram of included sugar, do not buy that product, included sugar, because the FDA has required the food manufacturers to list the included sugar, but they don't have to say, they're like hidden sugars. So they don't have to say if it's high fructose glucose, which is a toxic. The high fructose corn syrup is a toxic ingredient which causes diabetes, which is causing pancreatitis, which is causing heart disease and Parkinson's disease. Or it may be some type of artificial sweetener that they have included. And this is under included sugar. Stay away. So you want to have 0 included sugar in that nutrition facts, because it can be artificial sweetener. And usually they'll say 0 calories. Don't believe that. If they say 0 calories, 99.9% of the time, it's going to be an artificial sweetener. And we know that all of the artificial sweeteners, saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, invert, all of those artificial sweeteners causes cancer, autism, cause a disease. And food manufacturers like to use them because they are inexpensive. And so what I would recommend also is that your father avoids eating vegetables that are high in carbohydrates, like potatoes. Instead of eating potatoes, eat a green leafy vegetable. Not potatoes, because potatoes have starch, and starch turns to sugar. And the main thing that he wants to stay away from is sugar. Now, because And I don't know if he has adult type diabetes, and I'm thinking it's adult type diabetes because 2/3 of the population, adult population, has adult type diabetes. And that's due to insulin. And remember, the insulin is made in type 2 diabetes, but the insulin just needs some help being transported from the blood into the cell. So he might want to try a mineral called chromium. And that's a mineral, a supplement that he can that you can purchase. But what I would recommend is that you purchase the book Nutrition and Wellness, because I have chapters that talk about nutrition and wellness. It talks about, in the Nutrition and Wellness book, it talks about the importance to read nutrition facts and labels and ingredients, and that's on page 81. And then it talks about the foods and supplements that help prevent inflammation, diabetes, and cancers, and that's on page 97. So again, you can go to Amazon and purchase Nutrition and Wellness by Joyce G. Moore, MD,
Yeah.
and get this book, and I believe it'll be a great tool, and a great tool for everyone listening. It's something that I believe it's worth reading.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Joyce. And I know that we are running short on time. So I want to make sure that we get things in. So the Purple Mind Nutrition and Wellness book that Dr. Joyce mentioned that she has penned and put together, excellent book, excellent information in here. There is no stone that is left uncovered. And as we go through, as Dr. Joyce comes on, there's some preliminary things that we wanted to make sure that we got out and we wanted you to be able to see. So we've got the slides up and the screen so that you've got information. Get the book. The book is just works in tandem with what you hear here, but you also have something that you can have at home as a resource and a tool that you can always use and go back to and reference and be able to share with friends and family. Just like the questions that we got in, and if you're
Excellent
listening,
questions. Yes.
if you're listening and you have questions, make sure that you send them to us. You can email them to us, or you can drop them in the chat on YouTube. But get the questions over to us, because Dr. Joyce she is our nutrition and wellness expert, and will take those questions and come back with an answer so that you have something that you can actually use. Dr. Joyce, I know that there were a few other slides that you had in here to get to, but I know that we are shrinking on our time. We've got just a few minutes left. So I want to either go to the next slides that you want to
Yes,
get to.
yes, ma'am. We'll do that quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so again, the plant-based proteins, even though most people realize that there's more, maybe a greater number of proteins in meat, but plant-based protein is what I would recommend if you are a patient who's experiencing renal disabilities, renal failure, or if you have chronic renal disease. It's easier. Plant-based proteins containing seeds, organic, coming plants that are grown in the soil, not hydroponic, not water ponds, but from the soil with seeds. They're easier for the body to break down into raw amino acids. And remember, the amino acids are the building blocks of other proteins. Mm-hmm. And these plant proteins make the kidneys work easier than meats, because meats would make the kidneys work harder. So we want to keep that pressure off of your kidneys if you're having any kidney problems. Next, please. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in summary, we are standing on the Word of God. The more you know about the Word of God, the more effective you will be able to make healthy eating choices, to eat healthier so that you can enjoy health. Next. Thank you so much. Eat healthy, enjoy health, And make sure you exercise. That's very important too. And get sleep. Thank you so very much, Miss Michelle.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is so good, Dr. Joyce. And listening audience, we want to make sure that any questions that you have, make sure you get them over to us. Dr. Joyce will be back here next month, and she will come back ready to answer those questions for you. And also tune in. Remember, each month we eat the third Friday of every month. We are coming back. Dr. Joyce, Dr. Joyce, thank you for being not only coming with the passion that you have, but coming with the knowledge and the information and stuff that people need to really be able to make some different choices about their lives, their health, their bodies, and how to rebuild them, how to make change in the body. And so I just look forward to these Fridays. So I thank you for sharing with us. And last but not least, I always like to thank our audience for tuning in. Make sure that
Yes.
you like, subscribe, share with a friend, family, colleague, or neighbor. This is great information. Tune in every Friday to the Reimagine You Lab podcast. This is MG, your Reimagined strategist, and I look forward to seeing you next week. God
And
bless.
thank you, Miss Michelle, for inviting me on your amazing show. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.